Hi, everyone. Welcome. Thanks for coming. I'm Nicole. I'm Erase Racism's community educator organizer, and I'm here with Paulina. Paulina, do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Paulina, and I'm the social work intern at Erase Racism.
So today, you probably know this already, we're going to be talking about taking action, steps for taking action in your schools and in your communities. We like to start with some expectations, so I'll just read through them. Just because we are talking about race, and sometimes this can be a sensitive conversation. So we hope that for today's conversation, we'll all be fully present, open-minded, and respectful, that will value the process and the outcomes. So it's not all about, what you produce in this session. It's also just about the process we take to get there. Make space, take space. So if you want to participate, we love that. We love having conversations and discussions. It's also important to make sure that you're giving others a space to share as well and being mindful of how much you're speaking and everyone else is speaking. So speak from your personal experience. If you do share, use I instead of we, she, they, so that you can express yourself without assuming that your experience necessarily applies to others. Listen, seek to understand, and ask for clarification. So there are no stupid questions. Feel free to put questions in the chat or raise your hand at any point if you have a question. Honor confidentiality. So we're going to do some anonymous activities, but just in case, it's great to take what you learn in this session with you. If anyone shares something, make sure you leave the names and the specifics of their story behind. Assume good intent, acknowledge what happens, and attend to impact. So if anyone says something that maybe is a little harmful, we're going to address it, but we're going to do it from a place of love and wanting everyone to grow and learn. And be comfortable with discomfort. So like we're talking about race, sometimes that makes us uncomfortable, but that's okay. We can just lean into that for the purpose of this session. So really quick, a little bit about Erase Racism. We're a nonprofit based on Long Island, but we do work on the island, but also regionally and a little work nationally. And what we do mostly is work in housing and education equity. So we work with students, we work with superintendents and administrators, and we do work with teachers for a more equitable education on Long Island and all over New York State. And our vision is transformed, integrated communities in which no person's access to opportunity is limited by race or ethnicity. Specifically, we have a group of students who we work with, our student task force. It's a group of high school students from around Long Island who are passionate about racial justice and making positive change in their schools and communities. And we're going to go through some of the activities that we do regularly with our student task force. But some of the things that our task force has done is like write lesson plans for teachers to use in their classroom that are culturally responsive and take racial equity into account when in the lesson. We're working on making restorative justice recommendations for codes of conduct. And we're also in the process of trying to develop a podcast. So those are just a couple of the projects that our student task force is working on. And we also have meetings where we talk about what's going on in their schools. There's 125 different schools on Long Island, and every school is really different. We're also the 10th most segregated metro region in the country. So there's stark differences between the schools, but the student task force is a place for all the students from different schools to really come together. So I'll let Paulina introduce the first activity that we're gonna do.
Okay, so thank you, Nicole. So the first activity that I'm going to ask you guys to participate in is called Ready, Set, Action. So I'm going to read through the instructions and then we'll do the activity using Poll Everywhere. So the ready part of the activity is to start brainstorming about racial justice and equity issues in your community and write them down and write down what's your biggest hope for the community. And then the set part is to list the specific activities, programs we'd like to implement to achieve the hope you identified for your community. And then action would be planning the next steps that might take in order to make your hope a reality in your community or school. Okay, so to join with your phone, you have to send a new text message to the number 22333. And in the body of the message, text erase racism. Don't put any spaces. And then wait, don't click on any links. And then if you can't join through your phone, there's also the link, which is right here.
And I dropped the link in the chat. But when you join the Poll Everywhere, you should get a text back that says you've joined Elaine Gross's Poll Everywhere. So if you get that text, if you could just give me a thumbs up so that I know it's working and people are joining. If you go to the web, then you just wait until we start the activity. And if you get an error message, make sure that you made erase racism one word, because sometimes autocorrect will just like put a space in. Okay. I see some people said it's working.
Yep.
So for the sake of time, we'll just go through it, but the directions are going to stay on the screen. So if you haven't been able to join, you can keep trying.
Okay, so start to brainstorm about racial justice and equity issues in your community and write down your biggest hope for your community. So some examples, an example could be like when students make mistakes, to be treated with respect and given the opportunity to change. That could be like one example.
And also these are totally anonymous. So you'll just send a text with your hope, and feel free to dream big and it'll come up on the screen.
Mm-hmm.
So like your hope might be a police-free school, or like Paulina said, like a better way to address discipline. Maybe it's classes that account for different cultures. So someone texted lack of perspectives from other cultures and backgrounds in curriculum. So seeing other cultures, backgrounds, and perspectives in the curriculum would be the hope.
That's a good one. Give lessons to students to identify racist attitudes and behavior people are not aware of. Okay, like diversity trainings. That's another really good one.
For the sake of time, we're gonna go to the next part. But I'm gonna give you guys a worksheet which will have all the directions for this activity so you can keep, you can do them on your own, and then we'll talk about how to bring it to fruition.
Okay, so for this part, list specific activities, programs you would like implemented to achieve the hope you identified in your community. So an example of this could be like introducing restorative justice practices to your code of conduct, so that to change like the disciplinary part of your code of conduct. Diversity, equity, and inclusion chair position.
These are great. Create club programs to be included in student schedules.
That's a good one.
A petition.
Diverse books, yes. We love that.
You can definitely create a chapter.
That warms my heart. Create a local erase racism chapter at my high school. Oh. Thank you guys.
So these are amazing. So we got the ready, we got the set, and then the next part of the activity would be thinking about taking action. So you clearly were already thinking along these lines, but like how does change happen? So some of the things that need to happen for change to happen include gathering allies, um, reaching people who are in power and positions of power. Like someone mentioned, having a diversity and equity chair. So how would we get that implemented? We would need to talk to probably our superintendent. And just increasing awareness of issues of race and equity. Um, so we're gonna do an activity now called power mapping, which is sort of thinking about the changes that we said we wanted to make in our community and thinking about who has the power to actually make those changes. And since we don't have that much time, I think we'll just walk through it verbally. Paulina, do you want to read some of the examples of who can make the changes?
Sure. So some examples are students, teachers, advisors and counselors, parents, principals, board members, local business owners, religious leaders like your pastor or spiritual leader, community organizers, superintendents, legislators, and representatives. And my personal favorite, which isn't on this list, social workers.
Perfect. So it might feel like some of these people are really far, like you might have never spoken to your superintendent, you might not know who your school social workers are. But the point of this activity is drawing like literally a map to that person. So thinking about who you do know, what teachers do you have a relationship with, what parents might have connections to the superintendent. Um, and then drawing connections from you all the way to the person who has the power to make the change. So I'm gonna drop those activities right now in the chat. But this is if you want to stay connected and if you want to learn more about our organization, you can follow us on Instagram or Twitter, or you can go to our website. And you can also just send Paulina or I an email. Our emails are our name at eraseracismny.org. So mine is Nicole at eraseracismny.org and Paulina's is Paulina